Alright, well hello and welcome everyone to another week of our City of Mist campaign, the Reaper Soldiers. We are back again with our trusty trio, same characters we had last week. We have Mr. William Harvard, played by Spoon, Mike Malman, played by Faison, and Blanche Astor, played by Bloodied. And so we are going to hop back into where we left off last week. So, last week, the three of you had made your way through the Labyrinth of the Minotaur. Discovered that you were not alone within those halls, that in fact, Shin Lem, after you disappeared from the alleyway outside, had actually made his way inside in an attempt to get Hans out of the Labyrinth. He encountered Mike and Blanche in the hallway and gave them a choice that if they helped him get Hans out, he would help them get out as well. They decided that wasn't very fun and wanted to go and fight with the Minotaur instead. This led to a bit of chaos. William decided to breathe a bit too much of the fumes and ended up seeing visions of a better place, a happier place, but he was able to turn from them and stay focused on the crew itself. They were able to get Hans and began to make their way through the tunnels when a fight seemed to break out down the hallway between the boss Abraham and Shin Lem. When you arrived, there was no one to be seen, but you did find that the cord of red yarn that was coming from Blanche's bag seemed to have been pulled tight, and you began to follow it, thinking it would lead you to your way out. It did not. It brought you to a doorway that led into a room. Inside that room, bloodied, beaten, was Shin Lem, sitting in a chair. He had the string wrapped around his hand and gave you an ultimatum. You could kill him right there if you wished, or he would be your escape out of here. He told you he was the only one that could get you out. You were able to take calmer minds and agreed to use him to get out. So the four of you now made your way through the halls, and as you began to get deeper and deeper, William saw the boss yet again, saw his opportunity, his chance to take down this beast. So separating himself from the crew, he bolted off down the hallway and began to fight with the boss. Blanche, Mike, Hans, and Shen were able to find their way to the exit, which was camouflaged within the wall itself to look like any other wall, and it would have been very difficult for you to have found it if it wasn't for Shin knowing exactly where to go. You made your way into the hallway where you heard voices, or into the little basement area, cellar, where you heard voices coming from outside in the alleyway. You began to go to open the door when someone from the other side attempted to open it as well. You held the door tight, and a voice came through saying they knew you were in there. They slid something underneath the door and took a look at it, and it was a badge, very similar to the ones you have. That's a badge from the Order, but along with it was the badge of a chief inspector of the city, Chief Inspector Thalia Justice. You opened the door. She came down. Immediately started to have some words. She definitely seemed to be harsh and did not quite understand exactly what was going on. She raised her gun in an attempt to kill Shen as a loose end, in which Mike stepped in the way. And then Blanche decided to have a bit of a conversation with her, kind of told her that it doesn't matter if you are our handler or not. This is our situation. Let us deal with it. Not really relenting to a bit, Thalia holstered her weapon and exited out into the alleyway. Shin Lem was sent back into the labyrinth to retrieve William, and after a bit of a scuffle, William had gotten some pretty solid blows, but was in the process of being beat pretty badly. Thrown up against the wall, his sides were bleeding, his hands were still burnt, he'd twisted his ankle, he was kind of in rough shape, but Shin appeared, leaping out of the mist, coming down with a solid hit on the chest of the boss and leaving him breathing barely on the floor. He then took William by the arm, and you both rushed your way out of the building. While that was happening, Blanche had turned herself into a mouse, a little I'm assuming it was probably a red-headed mouse since your hair color doesn't really change. And
Yeah, it was probably a little auburn.
made her way out into the alleyway, where she noticed that Talia was standing, communicating with a few officers down at the far edge of the alley. She tucked herself back into the shed that had the dead bodies in it and had to kind of right herself a bit to not lose her stomach contents. Um, Throughout the past few hours, she's actually had some great success with her magic, being able to cast illusions to make sounds appear from a distance, and she tried to do the same thing. And just as she was causing a sound to go off, there was a loud crack, kind of a small, a thud sound coming from the factory back behind her. This thud led to cries of angst, then screams, and then a commotion out front. The commotion has allowed all of you the time that you need to get out of the building and get to the back of the building itself. Blanche, I assume that you've probably changed your form once more to, are you back to the
I'm
worker
back
woman?
to the worker woman.
So that's where we're going to start. You all have made your way outside of the building. You've heard this crashing sound, these cries, these screams, and you see that there's a fairly large crowd of probably about 20 people. Most of them dirty, overall wearing blue collar kind of workers standing around the very front door. The three constables that had been congregating kind of at the far end of the alley have moved their way towards the center of the crowd as well. So with Mike, Blanche, Hans, Shin, and William, you begin making your way through the back alleyway towards the river, where Shen has led you to a rowboat. He is kneeling down, trying to wipe the sweat and blood from his face a little bit from all the running, and he takes one of the tarps and just rolls it back. Underneath, there's a few bags of potatoes, and he takes those and kind of hauls them out. Kind of looks up. All right. I should be able to get 1, 2. I don't know if it's going to fit us all. Could probably fit about 4. I'm willing to find my own way around. If any of you are comfortable with the water, I can meet you on the other side. If you're not all that comfortable with the water, and you have your own ways out of here, that might be best as well. I have a place. It's not too far away from where the drop-off is supposed to be. I can bring it back to the park. There's a little bridge there that I tend to load and unload goods from every once in a while. And that part's really only a short ride away from the gated community where the church is. Yes?
What time is it?
Right now it's probably about 6:30, 7 o'clock at night.
I'll be fine. You on go. I won't be able to follow you. I have other things I have to follow up on.
Kind of looks. I appreciate what you have, what you've done. Thank you. Be safe on your travels.
She'll nod and look at the others. Hold on to my share, won't you? I'll collect it when I can come by.
Sure. Yeah. Money. I just want a hospital.
That you will be on your own with, I'm afraid.
After we drop off the boy, I can take you to the Royal Hospital in downtown. I'll have my driver pick us up from the gardens. From there, we'll take it inside to the church in the gated community. Drop the boy off there for the night. Family should have already dropped off their coin. And we should be able to wipe our hands free and clear from this. Go our separate ways.
I'm gonna lay on the potatoes.
As you hop in, Mikey kind of helps you get Hans in there. The rain is just still coming down just a little bit. It's sprinkling, not too bad. As he kind of looks for you, Mike, to push off. The river, it's moving, not very rapidly, but it's a steady stream, going kind of away from the direction you're going to have to go. So he kind of looks to you, Mike, to see if you would be willing to row the boat, as he's fairly badly injured as well.
Yeah, I can definitely row the boat.
Okay. So the rowboat itself, it's a bit longer and a bit deeper than normal rowboats probably would. It definitely seems like more of a smuggling craft than an actual just transportation kind of thing. And it feels a bit more difficult to row just because of how deep it is. It has more resistance on it, but after a little bit, it's no more difficult than having to haul your loads away from one of the slums after one of those, bad days. So you're able to start making your way upstream. The traffic on the river right now is not all that populated. There's still a few of the steamships that are making their way kind of down to the industrial area. So that's the most difficult area to kind of pilot your way through, is they're just moving loads from one factory to another kind of up and down the river. As you get a bit further, I guess this would be, west of that area, you find that the traffic starts to slow down a little bit. There's a point, though, that Shin Lem kind of looks up and he looks past you, and down the river you can see there's a small, it kind of looks like a longboat. It's piloted again by oars, but you can see there's a total of 4 oars on it. And there's a search light kind of on the front that's just a lantern with a mirror behind it. And every once in a while it'll flicker on and kind of scan the river a little bit. It seems to be just kind of past the area you're going. But looking up, Shin kind of sees it. We don't have too much further, but if they spot us, I have no doubt they're going to have questions. Kind of looks off to the side, and there's a area of shore that kind of curls around this bridge, and there's some waves that are kind of pushing up onto this kind of rocky beach. Kind of says, if you think we can, we might be able to pull in there. We'll have to find our way up those walls, but we might be able to. If not, we can try to go in deeper. I know getting through onto the bridge will be straight there. We'll have to walk a bit further if we go on the beach. What are your thoughts?
I'm in no climbing. I don't think I could climb, let alone walk the whole way. Unless Mike wants to carry me. And the boy.
Is that gonna be the safest route out?
If we can get to the bridge itself, my drivers always will be waiting right outside the gardens. The park should not be that busier this time of night, so we should be able to get Hans and your friend here out with really no trouble. But if we have to go up the beach, the walls themselves are going to be the most difficult part to get up. But if we can get up them, again, we're not too far of a way of walking. I don't have answers for the constables tonight, and the river police, they're not known for their patience.
Sure call, Mike.
Let's go for it.
All right, so you begin to paddle your way through the river. Lunch, as you see them kind of make their way away from the river, you still hear the commotion at the front, but you're standing there. You still have kind of both directions to go. What would be your plan to get home? I am assuming that's your plan here. So.
Yeah. I don't remember what time we established that the library closes.
I think. Let me check my notes.
I know we said it was kind of mid-evening because she wanted people to be able to go after work.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to go after work and after school.
10?
School.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm just gonna move us over here real quick so I can get
Whoa.
some basic ranges going.
RP Minotaurs.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in the blue collar district, you have to think just getting from where they work home's probably going to be about a good 30-45 minute journey, especially if they're walking. Probably could be quicker on a train, about 5 minutes, 10 to 15, on any kind of wagon or horseback. So that's putting them getting home around 6 o'clock to begin with. So you might still have it open till around 8, something like that.
Okay.
Especially if it's used for school as well, or for more like literature based programs.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it might still be open till 7, 8, something like that.
Yeah, then she's gonna try to make her way away from the scene around the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And head for the train station.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty easy. All the commotion's being pulled to the very front, so as long as you kind of walk around the riverside. So you guys are kind of right in. Let me pull this away from snaps to no snapping. Pull you over here. Come on, let me pull you. Yeah, there we go.
Whoa. Teleportation.
Why is that stuck there? There we go. So yeah, you guys are kind of in this area. That's where the factory is, and the train yard is basically just across where the harbor is over here. Kind of follows the river and then goes up and around, basically all the way down to downtown as well. So it's not that long of a walk, and the streets are pretty quiet as you go through. But as the sun begins to set a little more, you start to feel almost like a weight pressed down on your shoulders, and as you look around, you realize, even in the rain, you're not seeing stars, and it's almost like the atmosphere itself is closer to you here, and it might just be because of the smoke and the fog, and just the general kind of smogginess of the area. But looking up, the ceiling of like the atmosphere itself just feels compacted. Almost like it's
oppressive.
Yeah, almost like it's just above the buildings itself. And every once in a while, you'll just look down, one of these alleyways between the many, many factories, and you'll just swear you see movement, eyes, just weird shapes, humanoid shapes, off in the distance, just past where you can see any kind of color or any true form. But it just seems to be chaos just outside where the light kind of reaches from the sun that's still coming in, and now the lanterns that are beginning to burn outside of these different factories. You can hear noises, weird clicking, snapping, kind of yipping, coming around, and it could just be from the strange dogs, or the dogs that roam around the area, all of the stray cats, or something else. But you definitely have that uneasiness to rush your way out of here.
Yeah, she'd try to. She wouldn't break into a full run, but she'd definitely be moving faster.
As you kind of get onto the main thoroughfare to get to the station, you notice that there are a few trolleys heading down. They look very much like a funeral or a funerary cart, like an ambulance kind of cart, and they all seem to be heading back towards the factory. You actually have to kind of move out of the way of one as you continue forward. You get to the train yard. The train's got about another 5 more minutes before it leaves. You're able to finally kind of get inside to the cabs, find yourself a seat, sit down, and kind of take a deep breath to kind of focus yourself. The train yard, or the train itself, seems to be fairly scarcely populated. There's the main train worker that's kind of walking up and down and just checking that everything's safe. There's probably another 5 or 10 riders within the train itself. Most of them still workers, still making their way home. But eventually the train begins to move its way away from the industrial district, and as it moves kind of further towards the edge of the blue collar district, you notice that oppressive feeling begins to lift. A bit of the kind of grayish light begins to filter in a bit more from the sun. The rain starts to clear and doesn't seem to be as dark and heavy when it was falling. Even though it was just sprinkling, the drops themselves just felt like they had weight to them. So as you begin kind of making your way through the blue collar district and you have a moment to yourself, what kind of thoughts are going through your head? For the most part, this was kind of successful. You know, you're able to get the boy out. It seems that he's in health. But you do recall something. You kind of remember the letters and the forms that you were receiving, in which the reason you all were doing this job was because his parents were going to be benefactors, basically donate to the order. Now that you have this deal going on, especially with your interaction with Thalia, what's your thoughts when it comes to all that?
I mean, it's obviously going to go in my report that, they offered money to somebody else. But I'm not really gonna quibble about it too much, because frankly, money and donations and whatever, at least when it comes to the order, isn't really my job. I was sent in to clean up a mess and make sure that the boys didn't burn down another district. And I've managed to do that.
The night's
Yeah.
still young.
I'm not I mean, it's concerning, especially because I just pissed off my handler, but I'm a little less stressed about that than I might normally be. I'm also pretty preoccupied with what happened to those kids,
So I don't think Blanche would actually know. Again, you were at the back of the building,
I mean,
so you would have heard the crash, and you would have heard the screaming, but you wouldn't have seen the bodies. So I guess it's up to you if you're, through your magical sense, you're able to tell a bit more about what happened, or if this is just kind of your gut feeling, kind of based off of your ability to see.
Well, it's more that, I mean, because you had us overhear one of the workers talking to the foreman. She doesn't know that she caused it. But that doesn't mean that when you hear about kids dying, you don't dwell on it,
Yeah, I mean, how does that... This is the first time you've been out in the field. You've never in your life had to experience, obviously, this kind of dirtiness. You've probably not really been around shady people like Shin Lem before.
No, definitely not. At least not that I know of.
Yeah, all in all, what are your thoughts about now joining the order? What you're here for, and if you feel like this was a success? Was this a learning experience? Was this a chance to do better next time?
I think to Blanche, this would be a mixture. It's a success because she did what she came here to do. We rescued the boy, and we didn't burn down a district. And I mean, overall, at least in the time that she was with the group, there were no additional casualties. She can't help what they did before she managed to get to them. But it's also probably really disconcerting to somebody who has grown up kind of pampered and not really understanding the way life is. For people who don't live in the lap of luxury. I think, especially with, I think things like the factory accident, like, while there are things that she's probably aware have happened before, have always kind of been on the periphery and not something she's thought much about. It's, that's a pity, but that's just part of life. She's never been that close to something like that.
Yeah.
And there's probably that small part of her that's wondering if, why are we rescuing drug addicts when we could be saving people from stuff like that, people who don't deserve it.
Yeah, I mean,
so there's probably a lot of that kind of inner turmoil, like, I have this ability, but if I want the answers I'm looking for, I have to use it for this not quite altruistic reason.
And now that you've kind of seen the abilities of others, again, you probably haven't seen a lot of other rifts in the city, especially where you're at. Seeing what the rest of your crew is able to do, does that give you more confidence on being able to succeed in the future? Is there a bit of fear about the amount of power that they have?
I think she's more confident that they can accomplish things, but I also think she's a little bit more apprehensive
Mm-hmm.
about how they might accomplish things.
Mm-hmm.
Because in her eyes, what William did was reckless and stupid, and it could have gotten him killed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's that part of her that's just like, I'm really, really, really going to have to keep a close eye on these people if I want to make sure that everybody makes it home at the end of the day.
And the way that they treated you kind of as a middle-aged woman, does that have any effect on how you think they might treat you once they realize that you are still a child kind
Quite
of in their
young.
eyes? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think she was honestly a little surprised to find a woman in a position of power the way Talia
Mm-hmm.
was. And was equally surprised that the group didn't really question it
Mm-hmm.
when she showed up and started giving orders. And trying to kind of take over the situation. Like, Mike didn't really push back other than to ask who she was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably shocked her because she's accustomed to being in a world where women are to be seen and not heard, and there are very strict rules for how they're expected to behave.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that a woman can have that kind of position probably surprised her and
Yeah.
made her a little uncomfortable because she's not entirely sure how to deal with that.
Or even like, what did she do to get there, or why is she there? How? Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
pathway is, yeah.
there's probably a lot of, I don't even know how to deal with everything that I've done, and like, how do I know that I'm doing the right thing? And it probably feels really weird to be given that kind of power and that kind of status.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, it'll take a little while before you kind of get back there and make your way to the library. So as we fade back into the river, Mike, you probably have, I would say a good 300 yards between you and that searchlight, and probably about 150 yards to the beach itself, or to the bridge. Only about 100 yards to the beach. Sounds like you were going to try to kind of push through. Make your way there. So I'm going to have you take a risk to not be spotted. What kind of what kind of tags do you feel are going to be useful for rowing your boat, but also I would say kind of judging when that searchlight is going back and forth to get your timing right as well?
Probably just bullet time and committed to the job.
Okay, tell me how committed to the job is going through here. How is your job as a garbage man kind of helping you in this situation? Is it because you've kind of maybe you've rowed boats full of trash before, or?
Hey now.
Not specifically boats, but just the strength from hauling heavy garbage into like a carriage that's waist level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not exactly light work.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I am gonna say that soreness is gonna play a negative part here, just because it is strenuous work you're doing. Is there any thing you want to do to help him, William? Because you can see this light searching up above as well. Yeah, if there's anything you want to do before he tries to go, or any way you think you can help, feel free.
I could probably just throw a blanket over me and the kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's still a tarp in there.
Like, hide under the tarp.
Okay. Yeah, there's still a tarp, so you kind of take the tarp and pull it up above you and the kid, the bag of potatoes. Shin kind of just sits a bit lower, kind of using your form, Mike, to kind of block him, so it just looks like there's a single person just kind of rowing backwards if they happen to see you. So we'll say that gives you I'll give you a +1, kind of a story tag for that tarp as well, so we can go there. So it should be +3 -1.
Yep.
And that's going to be take a risk. Awesome.
Hey.
So you take a moment, kind of look back behind you. You notice that there's actually one of these kind of steam ships, more of a trolley, kind of pulling a trash barge behind it, making its way past this boat. So you actually hesitate for a moment, just sitting there waiting. And just as it begins to move in front, that's when you take this great big strength of speed and just move. The boat actually kind of lifts back a little bit as you just power through these raves, and just as the barge is kind of leaving the front area of the light, you find yourself making your way into this small little what would you even call it? I'm not good with water names, but it's a little like stream, canal that's going into the gardens. You actually recognize it as you begin making your way through, that this is the same area that you had all searched in before. Shin kind of peeks up. You sure are strong, aren't you? All right. We're almost there. Maybe another 20 feet. Just put us underneath that bridge, and we'll be good. Do you go to the bridge? Do you see that there's the option to kind of keep going further past it if you wanted? Or do you stop where you're at now?
Shin, what's further up the river?
Kind of looks. I know there's another bridge. It leads deeper into the city, but I don't think it stays as wide. I think this is just an offlow from something coming from downtown. I'm not sure.
Well, as soon as we get to the other side of the far side of the first bridge, we'll run ashore.
All right. Just taking a quick look here. Okay. So yeah, as you get close to the bridge, the oars start to kind of grind against the rock a little bit. So you just push one more time and just kind of let it glide back. You come to a rest underneath the bridge, and you're able to kind of pull the boat pretty tight up against the side. Shin kind of goes and taps on the tarp, kind of pulls it up. All right, we're here. Kind of lifts it up and steps out, kind of goes down to offer you a hand to get out, William.
I'll take it and pull myself out as well, yeah.
And, like, pulls you up, kind of taps you on the back as he does, and kind of helps you over to the wall to kind of stable yourself. And he goes over to Mike as well, kind of offers to help him out and kind of help him out with the boy. So as you all begin to kind of unload, Mike, are you still carrying Hans at this point? Do you like carry him out in the open? Do you want to wrap the tarp around him? How do you want to transport him kind of through the gardens?
I'd probably keep the tarp wrapped around him and him slung over my shoulder.
Okay. Kind of Shin peeks his head out. By this time, the sun's kind of real low in the sky. The normal gray light is kind of a darker, like, grayish orange colors as sunset is beginning to kind of appear. Being in downtown, there's just the many tall buildings that the glass on the side reflects the light around. You notice that the rain is hardly even noticeable at this point, but the clouds still hang overhead like it might just continue to burst down at any moment. Kind of takes a moment to study around. All right, I think we're clear. And he begins to kind of walk out of the bridge, kind of up the path, heading towards where the street kind of leads towards the entrance of the garden itself. Do you guys follow him?
Sure. I'm in no mood to go wandering through the park at night anyways, so follow him.
You continue to make your way up the path. Mike, you notice first there's birds. The damn birds. The damn birds are back. They're starting to circle.
I'll kind of point it out to Shin and William. Kind of nonchalantly.
So, William, as you kind of look up, you see there's probably 4 or 5 crows that are a bit higher up in the air than the rest of the birds you see in the park. And they seem to kind of fly past you and then curve, come back, and sometimes go a bit lower and curve, come back. But they're definitely kind of following you all from above as you're beginning to make your way through the gardens. Shin kind of looks up. Shit. Alright. She's always here, isn't she?
I'm gonna wave to the birds and keep walking.
She sees us all together. She might have things to say to those that ask.
She's always got things to say.
Huh. You know who she is, then?
We've met her. Mike more than us, but more than I should say.
Alright. Well, if you don't care, I don't care. After tonight, well, I don't plan on being around. Just continues kind of walking forward, kind of shrugging off the birds.
That's
Shin,
okay.
what do you know about this lady?
There's something strange about her. She knows, she seems to know a lot. She watches, she listens. She seems... It's hard to put it to words, to be honest. She seems confused. No, that's not the right word. It's like she's trying to figure something out. Something about, maybe not us, maybe humans in general, humanity, this park, I'm not sure, but the questions she asks, they always seem to have a deeper intention. But I know those birds, well, they're hers. And if they see us, she sees us. I'm not sure how, but I do know that she has been a tricky... Well, now you can understand why we work under a bridge and not above it.
Well, we don't have time to sit and stare at the birds. I'm probably bleeding on my insides. We should probably go.
You're bleeding a bit on your outsides too. Not pouring blood, but there's definitely some stains. You're wearing like a white shirt, like yeah.
I'm aware of that. Yeah.
So you begin making your way towards the front, and just as you're getting close, a black, looks like a dual bench kind of enclosed wagon with 2 dark horses kind of pulls right in front of the gate. On top of it, there's a kind of taller, looks like Asian man, but he's got a very long, dark beard that's kind of braided in a knot at the very end. He's wearing a top hat, very slick, kind of dark coat. Kind of looks over and looks to Shin Lem, kind of gives this look of, is everything clear? Shin kind of nods and just waves his hand to have him get the place or the wagon ready. The driver kind of leaps off and opens the door into this large kind of seating area. All of the windows have these dark curtains that actually have buttons on the bottom so that when they're closed, they're button closed and wind can't open it or separate or anything like that. Shin kind of goes over to the door and kind of grabs it to steady himself and goes to help you into the cab, William.
I'll accept the help. Yeah.
So he goes to kind of lift you in. The inside, it's kind of this dark black kind of velvet. It's very kind of nice and fine. There's dark kind of wood on the bottom. But yeah, it has a strong scent of kind of like a bit of what you would smell in the tunnels, but more of a tobacco smell. Not as strong as like the opium. But that definitely has a scent in here. Primarily probably because of transportation. Shin helps himself up and then offers to help get the boy into the wagon as well. And then do you get in, Mike?
Yeah, but I wouldn't, like, the boy's staying on my shoulder or in the seat next to me.
Okay. Yeah, he works to help you and the boy into the cab. Kind of sets you guys up on one side, and then he'll go and sit next to William on the other. Closes the door and just gives a single knock on the door or on the wall. Begins to move away. He goes and he unbuttons one of the windows and kind of leans his head out. We need to go to the gated community. St. Mary's there. And the horse picks up speed and you all begin to travel. With a single horn blast launch, the train kind of pulls into station. You probably have about another 5 or 6 blocks to get to the library. Would you just walk there? Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just gonna walk.
So yeah, it's uneventful. There's still people kind of making their way home. A few families kind of returning from shopping at the grocer, and mothers calling their kids to come inside before it gets too dark. That kind of stuff. But you get to the library. There's as you kind of open the door, you can see there's a few probably college-age students that are off in the corner having some kind of discussion. There's a few other, older folks that just seem to be reading casually, and a couple, it looks like blue-collar workers that are just sitting kind of talking on one of the benches. They don't seem to have any books in front of them. They're just kind of casually hanging out. But yeah, what would you like to do?
Oh, I wasn't planning on going inside. I was actually just gonna duck around back like I did before, and shift back into my normal clothes.
Okay.
My normal look.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, as you're kind of going around the building, you catch a glance inside one of the windows, and that's what you see. But
Okay. And I'll shift back into me, and then go in, kind of make a round, make an appearance, not really talk to anybody, but I want them to see that I was there.
Okay.
And then back outside to hail a taxi. I don't know what they would be called, what the carriage version of a taxi is, but
yeah, I'm not sure either.
I know they had them. I just don't know what they were called.
Yeah, probably. Let's think. I don't know. I can't come up with any good names right now. I'll think of one. How do you actually call for cabs? Is there like a telegraph within the library that you can use that goes to a specific number? Is it a matter of just going to the right street and kind of sticking your thumb out? What's the...
I imagine since this is something that she's done plenty, there's probably a telegraph that's, set up specifically for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be to call for emergency or if it's just called, to come pick somebody up or whatever.
Would you attempt to, like, do you have a direct telegraph back to home so you can rate your personal driver, or would you?
No, no,
Mhm.
she just used as a typical service.
So yeah, I think what shows up is kind of the run of the mill blue collar kind of taxi. It's not enclosed, you know, it's just kind of a basic wagon. The driver looks like he's been up for about 13 hours straight, kind of just wearing basic street clothes. Kind of looks down to you, and there's a bit of shock, like, uh, did you call for a ride, ma'am?
I did, as a matter of fact.
Uh, okay. Where are you gonna be going?
Home, and she'll give him her address, which I don't have open on my notes at the moment because they won't load.
Yeah, no worries. Oh.
And I mean, this is something she's done plenty of times, so I don't think it weirds her out too much that she's in a low end carriage.
Yeah, as he takes out a handkerchief and like tries to wipe off the bench, does a quick dust to clean it off, and then goes to kind of help you up there. You can definitely tell this is not, you know, a ride built for a woman in a dress. You know, it's more kind of have to hop over the side, but you've done it before, so you're able to get in there. You can tell he's a bit shaken by it. He's never had someone of this prestige, you know, and going to this part of the city he probably hasn't really done. So along the way he kind of asks for directions and makes sure that he has the proper permissions and all that. Is there any kind of entrance to the many mansions out there, or is it more that just kind of a bit out of the city and the drive itself, you know, kind of separates you from the rest?
I think the drive itself is the primary thing. It's less that you need to go through like a gate to get into, like you would with the gated community, and more that each individual mansion has its own gate.
Okay.
So as long as he shows up with her, they're not going to get turned away.
So yeah, he almost slows down as he gets into this area, as he begins to just look at every single house with just pure awe and misunderstanding. Like, how can that be a home? Is so big. That's an entire block where I come from. Does an entire like generation live in there? But eventually he kind of gets to your gate. Is there anything special about your gate?
I mean, it's probably got a lot of filigree, very, very finely handcrafted. It's not so much that there's anything, you know, super flashy about it. It's just, I picture their entire home as very kind of understated opulence is a good way of putting it. Like, it's obviously very rich, but it's not gaudy.
And do you have like a guard or someone that actually stands at the front gate to let you in, or is it more just you have a
Yes.
servant?
Yes. There's a guard that waits at that's usually at the front, at least during normal hours.
What's his name?
Jonathan.
And has Jonathan been with you all for a while, or is he fairly new?
Yes, he's been with us for a while, and his father did the same job before him.
So as you ride up, he kind of gives this sly grin directly towards you, kind of shakes his head. Oh, out for another one of your joyrides, are you, Miss Astor?
Just on my way home, Jonathan. I went to the library.
Oh, you got any good books this time?
Not this time, just did some browsing, checked in on things. Pet projects, that type of thing.
I see. Well,
my brother's still with his visitor.
No, your brother's guest. He left probably about half an hour ago. Wasn't too long. From what I can tell, I think your brother might have been a bit well, you know how he gets with these visits. You might want to check in him. Anyways, let me help you down from there.
All right.
Kind of helps you probably grabs a stool or something that he has there just to make this process easier, as it's so common. Goes, grabs it, and takes your hand. He actually probably has, again, petty cash on him as well, so he just kind of reaches in, pays the driver, and gives him the stern look like, don't say anything about this, don't talk to anyone about this, just go home. Here's a bit of a tip for you. Shut your mouth and you'll be fine. You see as the driver begins kind of riding away again, he's just looking at your house, just his head kind of turns, and then...
She would glance to make sure that he got a fairly sizable tip, because she knows this is really out of his way.
Yeah, I mean, for him, this is probably 3 weeks worth, but for you, it's
Okay,
like, you
good.
know, an extra $100, something like that, so not huge.
Okay.
But yeah, it definitely, he'll notice. But as he's kind of going around the corner, he looks forward, and the horse is about to just get off path, so he has to correct it real quick, and makes his way through. But yeah, as you kind of come to the front door, it opens. One of the servants kind of offers to take any kind of coat you have. And then you see the fireplace light kind of still coming from the den where you had said goodbye to your brother before.
She would hand over her coat and her hat, as she usually does, and would double check that the bag is closed and have it sent up to her room before she goes to check on her brother.
Yeah, you see like in the corner, there's just a little bit of like string still hanging out, so you tuck that in real quick, and kind of, you know, lock it up real tight, hand it to one of the servants, and they take it upstairs. As you walk over to the den, you see your brother. He's passed out. One of his hands kind of is fallen down off one side, and there's still like a glass that was barely grasped inside of it. He's got a massive grin on his face, and he's just laying there, you know, just passed out, snoring slightly. The room itself, there's probably 3 or 4 wine bottles that are on the floor. There's a variety of weird, you know, sketches and doodles on the backs of a variety of paper. It looks like they've actually torn out of some books just to draw some things. It looks like mostly stick figures kind of standing in front of things, each in like a small box, with the stick figure kind of over here and then moving over there. Sometimes there's trees in the background, sometimes it looks like a building. And in his little pocket on his vest, you can see there's a small like business card that's been shoved down inside of it.
She's gonna kind of very delicately pick her way through the room so she doesn't step on any of the papers or even really disturb them. And sort of, you know, lower herself enough to where she's not looming over him, and kind of put her hand on her brother's hand and give him a little shake.
Kind of, sister, you've kind of like picks up the glass, takes a drink. You've returned.
I did.
A good night at the library. Did you learn lots?
I was just checking in on things. It was informative. You should go to bed.
You're probably right. You're always right. All right. Bradley, get in here. I need help upstairs. One of your kind of bigger male servants kind of comes in. Oh, right away, sir. Kind of goes and just picks him up with one quick pull up and begins walking and kind of marching him up the stairs. It's very much like, you know, military, like, get out of here, we're getting out of this bar kind of thing. Seems like, you know, Bradley might have some military experience, but he picks him up, kind of gives you a little nod. There's tea in the dining room if you are at all hungry or thirsty there, Miss Esther. I'll get your brother set up upstairs.
Thank you. She'll have a maid come in and get any, like, you know, food or drink that was left behind. Make it very clear not to touch any of the papers. And we'll go have tea.
As your brother probably makes it up the first flight, kind of leans down as you're walking your way out of the room. Lunch! We're gonna be rich! We're gonna make dreams! We're gonna make dreams!
Oh, I'm sure we will. Sort of give like a slightly bemused shake of her head, and then go back to what she was doing.
As you make your way back, it looks like, dinner's been put away. There's been a new hot pot of tea down. There's a few, finger food that have kind of been picked through, but for the most part, it seems to just be left over from when they may have come in here. One of your maids comes in. Miss Esther, is there anything else you might need tonight? I was gonna go outside and make sure that everything's locked up tight, but be happy to fix up something for you.
If you could, just a sandwich of some sort would be fine. A little peckish.
Of course. I'll be right back with it. She makes her way kind of back in. You hear some clinking of, dishes, kind of the opening of some crates and cabinets, pulling things off shelves. And there's a bit of time. She returns back. She has a sandwich for you, basic. Like, a bit of meat, bit of cheese, nice bread, finely cut. Everything's trimmed nicely, how you prefer it.
Yeah, she'll take it. Thank you. I'm going to take this upstairs with me. Do some reading.
Well, you have yourself a wonderful night.
And you?
Thank you. She goes and kind of starts cleaning up the rest of the dining area, and you make your way upstairs. Kind of close the door with a heavy thud and have a moment of peace where it seems like all the sound of the outside world just disappears, and it's just you in your room with your mirror, with your books, and you look
Deep
to that
breath.
bag that's on your bed, and all of those kind of feelings of success and strength and fear and failure kind of hit you once more. But you have your sandwich, you have a bit of tea, you have a moment to sit and kind of press on your thoughts. So back in the park, or as you all begin to ride away from the park, you eventually feel the cart kind of start to slow, and you hear a bit of a conversation out front, and you hear the creaking of metal gates begin to open, and then you start to go, and you notice that the road goes from kind of a fairly bumpy cobblestone to fairly smooth, almost brick. You can hear the steady like click, 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 click of the wheels going across brick, but it's not as jostling as it was. A couple more minutes and it pulls up and stops. Shin kind of goes, unbuttons a few of the windows, looks around. All right, we're here. There's a door on the side of the church. Just bring Hans in, put him on one of the pews. His parents will come in the morning for him.
How do we know he'll be safe?
He'll be watched over, cared for.
I'm gonna sit down next to him.
Okay, you like scoot your way in between Mike and Shen.
No.
Mike,
It
do you
wasn't
get
me.
up to move out of the way?
Mike sat
Or-
down next to him, not me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
Will-
just sit next to him.
So, William, do you get out of the way before Mike sits on you?
I'll scoot over.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
We're in the church now.
No, you haven't gotten in the church yet. You're still in the wagon. You haven't gotten out of the wagon yet.
I
He's
think
just told
Faison
you what the
thought we were
plan
in the
is.
church.
Oh, I misunderstood.
No,
Yeah.
in the wagon, he just says we need to bring him in and set him on the pew. But you guys are still in the wagon.
Oh,
Oh,
That's-
see, Faison thought we
yeah.
were already in the church.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
So did I. Sure, we'll go in and put him down. And then I'm gonna sit down in the church with him.
Kind of looks. Oh, right. I don't care anymore.
I
You
didn't
go-
almost just die for this boy. To leave him in a church.
You won't be left alone. Like I
Alright.
said, I have this place covered. Don't worry. He opens the door and begins to help you all out of the cab. kind of goes over to the side of the church, and there's a small kind of wooden door with a single lantern over it, and opens it. Takes you kind of into the back area of the church, then leads you to kind of the upper platform where the preacher would be, and then you have the full main area of the church. There's another door that's kind of in the back. It seems to, lead to some stairs that are back behind it. That might lead to some living quarters or something that are up above the church itself. There's a variety of different outfits, robes and things that, priests and all of that would put over themselves before going on to stage. There's a stack of different religious books and all of that kind of in the back. But yeah, the church itself, it's fairly dark. There's a few candles that are lit across the front, kind of an altar. So it gives a bit of light, kind of a glowing orange light throughout. Now that the sunset's starting to get a bit darker, you can't really see all the corners of the room. It's still a bit dark, but you can see enough to make your way through. Shin kind of looks to see. So you set the boy down, and then you both sit down next to him?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you're doing that, he goes up to the pew or the podium itself. It's fairly large, made of white kind of marble with gold inlays. It's very draws your eye. He goes down and he opens a door that's in it, kind of looks around a bit, and you hear him grab a sack and kind of sit it down, and you hear the ruffling of paper back behind him. You can kind of see his figure crouched down below.
I'm just gonna stay here. I'm not moving. I'm too tired to move.
After a few moments, he comes out and he has a stack of British pounds, I guess it would be, euros. I don't know what it would be at this time, but it's paper money, and it has a bank kind of roll around it, and he has that, and he kind of puts it in his pocket, and then there's a handbag that he carries, and he brings over, and he just sets it on the floor in front of you. Count it if you wish. This is all. It's all there. They did what they needed to do. I've done what I need to do, so if you wish to stay, so be it. But I will be on my way.
I'm gonna slide the bag under the pew that I'm sitting on and just kind of slump down a little bit. What a day.
Shin, he kind of looks to, or Mike, he looks to you. Your friend isn't doing so well. They might have some bandages or something back in the back room. I'm not sure what they all keep there, but you might be able to find something. All right, well, gentlemen, it's been an experience. Good luck with your futures. I hope to never see you again. And he bows deeply. You can tell, it goes to the point where he's hurting himself to do it. He stands up, pulls his jacket tight, kind of buttons a few buttons that have been undone, brushes off a bit of the leftover dust and stuff, turns and makes his way outside the door, back outside. Unless either of you try to stop him.
Well, we've got our money. We have the boy. He didn't kill us, so I'm just gonna let him go.
Yeah, that was the agreement.
After a moment, you hear the door close. You hear a smaller door outside close, and the wagon begins to make its way out of away from the church and kind of down the road back towards the gate. Kind of the same thing happens as that door closes. The sound of the outside, the rushing of the river, the wind, the sound of people coming home just falls silent, and all you have is just the breathing, some stronger than the other of the three of you. Han still passed out on your shoulder, Mike, just laying there. The tarp is just kind of down around him, so he's still kind of mummatized, pulled tight. And just kind of laying there, a bit of drool kind of goes down his face and down your shoulder.
We should probably try to get some food in him, yeah? Maybe find some of them bandages. I appear to be bleeding all over the pews.
Well, if you're okay here, I'll go look for the bandages.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to move. I'm okay.
I'll head back and look what I can find.
Okay. So, yeah, you... Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to say this is a change of the game as you kind of search the church to see what you can find. And for this scene, I'm not sure there's really any story tags currently. You know, as we develop more, we might actually list them, but right now I don't think we have any.
Yeah, I don't really have any anything that'll help with it.
Okay. So you still get a minimum of 1. Yeah, so you can basically find some bandages in which you can reduce his status by 1. You end up kind of going upstairs, and there is a small room. It's very sparse. There's not a lot up here. It's basically a bed, a little kind of prayer mat, you know, a Bible, some spare clothes, and there's a basin to wash in, you know, a chamber pot. It looks like some place for someone to stay, maybe if they're, you know, in hiding possibly, or you know, a place for the homeless to stay. But because you're in the gated community, it doesn't seem to be very well used. You know, it's kind of just a spare room. But in there, you find like a roll of bandages that you're able to locate.
I'll head back out and tend to him.
Okay. Yeah, you take some time. You kind of help him to remove his shirt and start wrapping the bandage kind of around his sides, where primarily it's his back and his sides that got the most bloody. You know, he still has his palms as well that are still fairly burnt and scarred and not looking all that great. So for you then, William, that would take your 3+ status down to just a 2.
Yay! Where did that go? Why is that not still on my...
You should still have
Up
it.
there it is. Injured. There we go. It was just over there. I'm not used to it being on the left. So I don't... That injured includes the twisted ankle? So I don't...
No.
Okay.
The injured was your bleeding sides and your burned palms, so those 2. And then your twisted
right.
ankle was something different. I still have well-fed, handcuffs and keys, and loving wife. That's
I
what
don't
your
have the
status is.
handcuffs anymore.
You don't have the handcuffs anymore. All right.
Those were on the Minotaur that I locked up.
Ah, yes. Yes. That is
Punched
correct.
the crap out of him.
You punched him in the nuts.
I did. He deserved it.
You done did that, indeed.
But that was before I locked him up. I locked him up and then dislocated his arm.
So,
And then all that fancy stuff.
as they're kind of cleaning up and Blanche is having a moment to herself in the room, we're going to kind of fade into the night. Let's take a quick break. I need to go downstairs and start the oven for the wifey. So I'm going to do that real quick. And I know you just got back bloody, but we'll be back in just 5. It'll be a quick one.